Worldwide parent coach and conscious educator Sue DeCaro is on a mission to revitalize the joy in parenting. Welcome to Conscious Parents, Thriving Kids, a podcast designed to help parents all over the world create deeper connections with themselves and their children while overcoming life's daily parenting challenges. Listen in if you want to bring more laughter, love, and enjoyment to your home life.
Welcome to Conscious Parents, Thriving Kids, a place for all things parenting. I am your host, Sue DeCaro. Technology is one of the most challenging issues for parents today. And one of the issues that comes up when I speak with parents about technology is fear. Fear can cause such roadblocks to how we engage with and become curious about technology in our families. Realistically, technology is part of life. It's part of family life. It's here to stay. Technology is not the enemy. Working with technology so that we can control it and it does not control us is imperative in families today. The first step for parents is modeling the behavior that we want to see in our children in our own behavior, in our own actions. How do we come to screens, cell phones, technology in our own lives? What do our boundaries look like for us? Technology, in my opinion, offers us a tremendous opportunity to bond with our children. Instead of struggling with their usage, it's an opportunity to join them, to learn about what it is they love about the technology, the screens, the games, the apps that they play with. Have you had a moment to connect with your child in their world, the world they love? This is where our curiosity comes into play. Connection in this realm of joining our children where they are can offer such great insight into why our children play Fortnite, why our children like Snapchat, why our children are on Instagram and what they see and like, and whatever other game is your child's choice that you feel is appropriate at their age, of course. But having an understanding that of these games and apps that our children engage in can really help us when we try to create boundaries. Understanding why they love what they love gives us some insight into what they're doing, who they are, and what really makes them excited. Isn't that important in creating conscious connections with our children? In this way, learning about their world and their interest, we actually create a conversation around technology. When we engage in their world, we are offered so much insight and so much knowledge that we can take forward in having conversations with our children about these games, about what they played, about what they saw on Snapchat, or why they sent a particular picture. And this helps us to open conversations and communication in a way that our children are sharing with us, and we are feeling the connection from that. They are knowledgeable. When it comes to their tech world, they are very knowledgeable. And oftentimes they really can help us to learn more about them through their eyes. So I invite you to sit with your children, connect with your children in their world of technology before placing boundaries, before trying to gain some clarity about what it is you want to see. First, see what it is they see. It's new glasses that we all have to wear in order to understand our children in this way. But it is a great way to connect. And as I said, words are so important in conversation starters and connection. When you come from a place of trying to understand what your children are doing, you can really ask so many different questions at different times. For example, at dinner, you might be able to have a conversation about what went on in their social world of some game they're playing. And there's nothing better than continuing to ask questions, bring up conversations, and keep the door open. When it comes to technology, or anything else for that matter. This is how our children see that we value them. We understand, or are trying to understand, the world in which they live. Many of us are not digital natives, so we were not born with these items in our hands, and therefore we don't necessarily know or understand what it's like to live in this world of technology as a digital native. So really collaborating, communicating, and connecting with our children when it comes to navigating technology and understanding it in our homes is vital. I think mealtime is also a fabulous time not only to bring conversation to life about technology, but also to keep screens at bay. I'm a big believer in having technology-free zones in our home where we know that this particular area is screen-free. For me, mealtime is a very important time to connect with my family, to have conversation, and to not have screens present where we hear a ding or a bing or someone's checking their Snapchat or Instagram. And so that is a screen-free zone in my home, and it works beautifully. Everyone knows and everyone abides. So I encourage you to find what speaks to you in terms of screen-free zones, sacred spaces that are open for communication and clear of technology. This does not only mean for our children, of course it means for us too, as the adults, setting the example, being the models. If I walked into the room and sat down at mealtime with my cell phone in hand, believe me, people in my family would notice and would speak up. So it's important to model the behavior that you want to see in your children and yourself, as I shared earlier. And screen-free zones are a perfect way to follow your own boundaries, follow what you set in a way to honor these commitments and these screen-free zones. Boundary setting is also extremely important, especially where our children are concerned, and especially with younger children. Life is full of boundaries in many different areas, and technology certainly can have these boundaries too. But again, it's really important to understand, as I said earlier, where our children are in terms of their technology usage, their enjoyment, and what that looks like for them before we start creating boundaries and creating rules about them. But when we set these boundaries, we certainly have to have clarity. I couldn't be more insistent upon how much clarity plays a role. Because if we are not clear about the boundaries that we want to set, then we're wishy-washy. And our children are the first ones to see that we are not 100% committed to whatever boundary we're bringing to life. So first take time, if you're a couple, sit down and discuss what you want technology to be like in your home, what's important to you, and why. Keep in mind the values and the ideas that your children have and what's important to them as well. And I highly encourage parents to include their children, even young children, in the discussions about boundary setting. When children are part of the discussion, not making the decisions, just part of the discussion, there's so much more buy-in that they have to this whole technology piece and boundary setting, and anything for that matter, because they've been of value in having a conversation. And it's super important for our children to feel that value in anything that goes on in their lives and ours. So include your children in having communication and conversations around boundaries, why boundaries are important. Listen to what they have to say. Sometimes our children have incredible ideas that we might never think of. And when we engage with them in talking about boundary setting, we might find a boundary that comes through them and from them that seems perfect for the situation. Our children are our greatest teachers. We just have to open the door to hear what they have to say. So as you gain clarity yourself, I highly recommend bringing that clarity to a roundtable discussion of sorts with your children to engage with them in bringing what boundaries feel right for you and your family to life and to a conversation so that you can set them with comfort and connection for your children and yourselves. I also would love to share my thoughts on screen time as a reward and punishment. Way back when, I used to use this as a punishment. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, it's important to take control over screen time, not let screen time control us or technology control us. And when it comes to using screens as a reward and punishment, they are given an enormous amount of power. And that can be truly dangerous to give them that much power. So when we use these to help navigate and control behavior, we unintentionally are offering that power to technology. It's a common practice in our world today, but I think teaching our children that these device makers purposely create these devices and these apps to be addictive, and that we need to understand this addictive behavior that is created by many different apps and come from a different place of understanding as opposed to taking them away. So our children are addicted to Fortnite, to Snapchat, to creating their streaks on Snapchat and having to do it every day as part of that streak. These are digital natives we are raising, and this is the world they live in. So when it comes to technology and consequences, for example, I highly suggest trying to use them in a natural way. If technology is a problem in the way in which our child used it, and we don't think that they are honoring technology appropriately, perhaps, then it would be a natural consequence to remove technology or limit technology or change it in some way, shape, or form. But other than that, if they get a B on a test or a D on a test, or they were rude, or whatever the case might be, that you typically want to bring a consequence to life, try to avoid the pitfall of bringing a consequence to life around technology and screens if it doesn't pertain to the actual infraction, so to speak. I'm not a big fan of consequences anyway. I'm more of a fan of teaching our children through the trials and tribulations of life, through the mistakes they make. We all make mistakes. And so really taking time to teach our children and help our children to navigate their mistakes as opposed to bring a consequence to life is, in my eyes, most important. But that's a subject for a whole nother podcast. So navigating technology in our homes really starts with us. It starts with us beginning to look at the tech usage of our children and ourselves, to understand what it is they love about the technology and the screens that they use, to understand what we love and what our values are and boundaries are around our own usage, and begin the conversation with our children to connect in creating boundaries and values with clarity, but also with our children, empowering our children to be part of the conversation. It starts with us. Inspiring our children to engage in life, create balance and fun, and join them in that fun is an enormous opportunity when it comes to having conversations around the screens. Connecting with our children is the first step in moving in a positive direction when it comes to screens and navigating them with balance and love. Thank you for joining me. Remember, every moment is a new moment for conscious connections.
Thanks for listening to Conscious Parents, Thriving Kids. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review at iTunes or wherever you listen in. And be sure to visit DeCaroParentCoaching.com for a free download of 10 ways to connect with your child.